Hello guys, this is Morgan Max. Welcome to my new episode on how to learn the tarot cards without memorizing their meanings. Today I want to talk to you about a card which is quite, I would say, controversial, for a lack of a better term, because it's a card that has different names in different decks. And I'm talking about the Major Arcana number 16. A lot of you probably know this card as the Tower card because the main structure which is represented here seems to be this big tower. But actually, if you look at the name of this card from the Tarot of Marseille, there is no mention of a tower whatsoever. The name in French is La Maison Dieu, which actually means something like the house God. So it's a kind of a strange translation because it's not the house of God, but it's the house God. But it's interesting because it puts together two important information about this card already. So the first is the concept of a house, and the second one is the concept of God. By the way, this term is particularly interesting because if we look at the name, we can actually divide it into different parts. So the first part is the first three letters, L-A-M, so lamb. And lamb in French could also mean lem, which means the soul. And then if you take the next two letters, which is A and I, so A, in French, this could be also translated as et, which is and then you have the part Maison Dieu, which means it's God. So if you look at these three parts together, what really here this name also indicates is the soul and its God. That's why you don't have the house of God, because another preposition here would change this very interesting meaning of the name of the card. So the soul and its God. So where is the soul and where is God? First off, you have to pay attention a little bit here to the colors. So you have this building here, this tower, which is pinkish, in kind of an orange-pink color. And pink in the tarot always is associated with receptivity and the color, pink is associated with the color of the body, so flesh. Whereas the receptivity can be found in these three windows because they are blue, and blue is the color of receptivity. So this is a body, represents our body, which is receptive. Receptive to what? Receptive to God. So the meaning, the deep meaning of this card is that God lives inside of our body. So God is inside of us. That's why the name is the soul and its God. But without going too much into the philosophical, theological meaning of the card, I just want to, to guide you again through the symbols of this card, because this is the way to memorize it, actually, to remember it without having to memorize it. So again, so we see first of all this building here, so a house, and this is indeed the first important keyword for this card. So the concept of house intended in every single term, so like a building which is made of bricks and cement. So in other words, it can indicate the physical house, but it could also indicate a school or a bank or a hospital, but always in terms of the physical building where you can be located. And so this is the first meaning we have to say. Now, the other thing you notice is that there is this crown on the top of this structure, and the crown is hit by something which is really very difficult to define. So it could be, some people think of a lightning. It could be also, I don't know, it could be like an arrow or a dart. It's unclear what it is. But it's certainly something that takes away the top of this structure of this building. So it opens it up. So this is another concept that you have to associate with this card. So the concept of opening the roof of the building, opening of something, also open to sudden opportunities. This is another very important meaning of the Major Arcana number 16. You can even think of this structure that is actually not coming from outside, from the outside to the inside, so to take off the roof, but actually you can see it also as something that once the roof is open, goes out from the inside out. So in any case, there is this concept of abrupt opening and revelation of something that is sudden. So, and also the ability of taking sudden opportunities. Now, another important, interesting part of this card is these two characters. And if you followed my previous videos, I told you, and I reiterate it now, that every time in the tarot, in every tarot card, you see a couple, so two people, there is a concept of couple indeed. And this is the case for this card as well. But if you look at this couple, there is one character that is actually entirely revealed in its own body parts, whereas the other one is a little bit hidden, if you notice, because we can only see one of the arms, not the other one. We cannot see at all the legs. So what does it mean? It means that if a question is about a couple, or it's a love question, and you have this card popping up, then you have to think that in this couple there is one of the two members or characters of the couple that is actually fully sincere, whereas the other one is hiding something. And by the way, this doesn't necessarily have to have a negative meaning. So perhaps this person is hiding something just to protect or not to offend the sensitivity of the other member of the couple. But in any case, you always have to think of a person that is very open, very sincere, very transparent, and the other one that has something to hide. Now, what are these two people doing? So observe this card, and a lot of people think that they're actually falling from the windows or from the tower, from the building. But actually, if you look more carefully, this is probably not the only interpretation, and perhaps not even the most obvious one. Because if you look carefully at the card here, you see at the very bottom two little things here that seem to me like two footprints. Now, if these are footprints, they're clearly related to this person or to the feet of these two people, but certainly this one because it's in front of the structure, so probably it's the one who has left these footprints. And if you look at this person, what is it doing in reference to the footprints, then you can also think that this guy is actually like rolling or flipping in the air of joy. So that's why the footprint. So he was like standing, and now it's rolling of joy in a silly way perhaps, but certainly seems very joyful and happy, rolling and flipping in the air. So this card could also be associated with happiness and with celebration and with making a party, being in a fun mood. These are all meanings of this card, which are actually also reinforced by the fact that you see all these little dots here of all colors that can also be seen as like confettis or something that is actually up in the air in a festive way. So little balloons, several of them that are released in the air, or you can see a little bit of confettis, as I said, but certainly there seems to be something to celebrate. Now, in the tradition of other decks, this card has always been associated with some negative connotations. For some reasons that are really not entirely clear to me. But if you think, for instance, of this card in the Rider-Waite deck, for instance, even the representation sometimes is quite dramatic, with a very dark and black and threatening background, and but this is certainly not the meaning of this card, at least according to the Tarot of Marseille, if nothing else because it has the name of God in it. So it's our self in the presence of God, or God inside of us, as I said before. So I'm not quite sure why in the center, in the tradition, it took these negative connotations. It has to be said, though, that this card has this concept of abruptness or of sudden that certainly has to be taken into account, because this structure here, whatever it is, it's suddenly hitting and opening the roof of this structure. So if you want to extend the meaning of these sudden and abrupt, you can also see this card associated with an explosion of something. As I said, this structure could be also gas that is coming out of the roof which has been destroyed of this structure. So in this sense, you can also associate this card to another keyword, I should say, which is sudden explosion. And also, consequently, you can also extend this meaning to natural phenomena like earthquakes, hurricanes, tsunamis, or floodings, all of that, because there is this concept of explosion. And it's quite interesting also to notice that depending on which card is on the right or on the left of these arcana, you can also have some indications on what is actually exploding. Like, you know, if you have, let's say, major arcana number 13, everybody calls it the death, but actually this is incorrect, as we will probably see in one of the future videos. Right here on the right side of this card, then you can also say that this is an explosion of rage, because rage is represented by major arcana number 13. Having said that, it's quite interesting to notice that depending on the location of the next card, you can also take some considerations that we will go into deeper into this concept in later videos. But what I'm trying to say here is that if a card which is positioned on the left side, so on this side of the La Maison Dieu of this card here, of the major arcana number 16, it's a card which is crowned, because the crown is falling on the side, on this side of the card. Whereas whatever is on the right side seems to be punished, because the lightning or the gas that is coming out of this structure of this house is actually hitting the card on the right. So this is something we will come back in the future, when we will start trying to put 2 cards together and then 3 cards together. But for now, remember also that there is this concept of a card on the left of this card being crowned, the one on the right side being actually punished. So I'll stop here. I think we have plenty of elements to reflect about this card, and I'm sure after this video you will not look at this card the same way you did before. And so that means that I did a good job, because I'm able to guide you through the symbols of the card. Thank you so much, guys, for watching these as well. I hope that you liked also this third episode of the series on how to learn the tarot cards without memorizing their meaning. If this is the case, remember to give me a thumb up. And in the next episode, we will start actually to put together what we have learned so far into practice. So looking at the duo of the tarot cards, so putting together 2 cards and their meanings. And so if you don't want to miss it, remember to subscribe to my channel for regular videos. Hit also the notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. Remember that I post every week. And to get in touch with me, check my websites also down here, especially if you wanted to learn the tarot with me and take some lessons. We can do that, certainly. You're going to find the links to my websites in the description box below. Of course, as usual, if you have any questions or comments, use the comment section below as well. And until next time, let the cards be your guide. Bye, guys.